I'm Mark Dresner, and this is Research TV, brought to you by the Market Research Event, the largest and most comprehensive conference in the world dedicated to increasing the business value of insights. Joining me today is Melva Benoit. She is Senior Vice President, Consumer Insight and Audience Research at Fox Broadcasting Company. Melva, welcome to Research TV.
Thank you.
Great to have you today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your current role and responsibilities for context?
Absolutely. I run the research group for Fox Broadcasting Company, and the easy way I like to explain it to people is I help management, the network, understand who's watching, who's not, and why. And so everything from analyzing metrics, Nielsen ratings, all the way down to program testing. So we cover everything for the network with the exception of ad sales research. So I do very little of that, thank goodness. Just sort of stick to basically consumer stuff.
Everyone is talking about big data. It's where it's all over the place. What is your take on big data? Okay,
so big data for me, and let me sort of say this nicely, big data is a pain. It's a huge pain in my behind. Primarily because in my industry, in particular entertainment, it's overused. And so big data should represent volume and size when it actually represents everything that goes beyond the standard data that we currently get. So I have a bunch of executives that are very excited about big data and collecting every single metric and statistic about viewers that come to our network. So for me right now, big data is something that we get lost in sort of the name and the title when it's actually paying attention to the 3 or 4 metrics that matter in our business. And while they may grow in size, and so we'll have volume in that way, fine, I'm fine with that. But to basically decide to increase the number of metrics because I want to collect every single statistic, big data is a pain.
Why do you feel that we have too many metrics? I mean, do we have too many metrics?
I think for my space in particular, when you're talking about measurement, for measurement you only need 4. And so I need to know what you're watching or clicking or doing. I need to know the time that you're doing it. Meaning how long a time you spend with it. I need to know how many, and I need to know where. And once I understand those, I can create multiple calculations to get different types of analysis, but I only have 4 metrics basically. And that happens for any measurement that you have. Once you start adding a thing on a thing on a thing, the metrics, they lose relevance and they don't mean anything. The best example I'll give you is our friends at Facebook. If you look into their web analytics, they're down now to 35 tabs of metrics. So I know it's a little over 220 metrics.
It's a lot of metrics.
It's a lot, and most of them don't mean anything.
I think one of the great holy grails, just shifting tracks a little bit in research, is the ability to predict behavior. Is this, in your mind, a fool's errand?
You know what? There are some industries that would be thankful to reduce they'll take the margin of error, they'll take the prediction. So they'll be happy to have some sort of point going to lead them to success. There's some industries where the nature of what the industry is hasn't changed, so you can still look at markers at being somewhat predictive when looking at data. I work in an industry where the sheer number of variables makes it impossible to predict a hit television show. Yet, over and over, people assume that they can. I make a show, it tests marginally okay, but I have a place to put it, which is the highest rated time slot on TV, and just by nature of that, that is as much a contributor to it being a hit than just the idea or just the 6 people or the actors or the competition or so many other things. So because I live in that space and that's my world, it's like, well, no, trying to model out, which is Google's philosophy, we're going to model out success. It's like, no, why?
Speed versus specificity, are these mutually exclusive concepts from a research perspective?
That comes into play with regard to, do I get it quick
Right.
Or do I take the extra steps? I want to speed it up as much as I can, but you know what? I'd rather it be right and pristine. Because the amount that's riding on the decision really matters versus I just need to give you a heads up walking into a meeting. Because sometimes it is just exactly that, and you have to make a decision. Do you put a vendor through the ringer? Because there's a whole line of things that are happening. Do I basically make somebody else's life miserable just to give this guy an additional number that's not going to change anything or start or stop anything? It's just because they want a number walking into a meeting.
Terrific, terrific points, and a really nice, unique, refreshing perspective. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And that concludes this episode of Research TV. I'm Mark Dresner, and you just heard the Insight Scoop.